بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Alhamdulillah. So the second life begins when one is delivered from one's mother's womb and ends when one departs from the world in death. This, which is the middle of the lives, is also their purpose. It is the period when man is held accountable for responding to the divine injunctions and prohibitions, the consequences of which will be reward or punishment. So I think that there are copies here, Sidi Ilyas, for a reason. Endless happiness in the proximity of God, the high and majestic, or perpetual torment and remoteness from Him. Great individual differences exist between people as regards the length or brevity of this period, as also in other respects. Page 15. So Terry, can you come closer and read for me? Take that mic. Take that mic. Take that mic. Just sit there. معلش. Bismillah. In the womb.
In the womb. This life begins with a prologue, which resembles the intermediary world of the life to come, in which there appear many of those factors which cause one person to take precedence over another after the resurrection, and where some of the essences of worldly matters, which pertain to the person before his death, are retained. This prologue is the period of gestation, for it sees the appearance of some of the worldly influences which will apply to a person after his leaving his mother's womb, just as he retains something of the essences of the special existence within loins and wombs, in which he had lived before he appeared in his mother's womb. God mentions gestation, these phenomena, and the stages through which it passes in many verses in his eminent book. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. We created man from a product of clay. Then we placed him as a drop in a safe lodging. Then we made of the lump bones. Then we covered the bones with flesh, and then brought him forth as another creation. So blessed be God, the best of creators. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. O mankind, should you be in doubt concerning the resurrection, then know that we created you from dust, then from a drop of seed, then from a clot, then from a lump of flesh, shapely and shapeless, that we may make clear for you. And we cause what we will to remain in the wombs for an appointed time. There are also many hadiths on this subject, one of the most comprehensive being that of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, may Allah be pleased with him, as recorded by Bukhari and Muslim. The Messenger of Allah ﷺ told us, and he is the truthful, whose veracity God confirms, quote, any one of you will have had his created existence brought together in his mother's womb, as a drop for 40 days, then a sticky attached clot for the same period, then a piece of flesh for the same period, after which God sends the angel to blow the spirit into him. The angel is commanded to write 4 words. Firstly, his apportioned provision. Secondly, his lifespan, his deeds, and whether he will end up as wretched or joyful. By the one besides whom there is no other God, one of you may do the works of the people of the garden until he is separated from it only by an arm's length. Then that which had been written overtakes him, and he does the works of the people of the fire and enters it. And one of you may do the works of the people of the fire until nothing remains between him and it but an arm's length. Then that which had been overtakes him. He does the works of the people of the garden and so enters it. This authentic hadith contains enough to put great fear into the obedient and righteous, let alone the rebellious and the sinners.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, who spoke at length about this hadith and the other hadith like it. And so for those who want to elaborate further and understand, they have to go and watch the halaqah from I think last Thursday or Thursday, Friday and Saturday last week. Bismillah.
Childhood. Man thus remains in his mother's belly until God wills him to come forth. This is the first part of his life in this world, the dunya. God the Exalted has mentioned the beginning of this life in his book, stating how many moves from stage to stage and from one condition to the next. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. And afterward we bring you forth as infants, then give you growth, that you attain your full strength. And among you are those who die, and others who are brought back to the worst time of life, so that after having had knowledge they know nothing at all. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Then that you attain full strength, and then that you become old, though some among you die before, and that you reach an appointed term, that you may perhaps understand. And there are many more verses relating to this. In this second life, people move from the state of childhood to puberty, then to youth, to young adulthood, to maturity and seniority, and then to such decrepitude and senility as God may will, all in accordance with what God has said in His book. When a human being is born, he begins to scream, which is due to his being stabbed by Satan. May God curse him. Only Jesus.
May God protect us from him.
May Allah protect us from him. Only Jesus, son of Mary, and his mother, upon them be peace, escaped this. For God guarded them against it because of the prayers of Mary's mother, Imran's wife. Quote, I seek your protection for her and for her offspring from Satan the repudiate. This also finds mention in a hadith. Iblis arrived to stab, but his thrust came against the protective veil. It is a sunnah which we are commanded to follow, to give the call to prayer, the adhan, in the right ear.
So this hadith about why does the baby cry? There is a hadith, there is a tradition. It's not it's a controversial one. It's a tradition, but we have to take it in a way that, in an intelligent way. And the scholars, they said it's not the fact that because literally the hadith is saying that any child when he is born, the Satan will stab him, and then he will cry. He will feel the pain of that stabbing, except for Isa, for Jesus, son of Mary, and his Maryam, and They didn't because their mother, Hannah, the mother of Maryam, asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect Mary and her child from Satan. So the ulama who see with the basira, with the light of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they said this is not a hadith, it could not be a hadith. It doesn't sound prophetic. It doesn't sound the way the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam would speak. It's very, ala kulli hal, and many of the ulama of the hadith, they did not accept this and they rejected this hadith altogether. It's one of the not only mawdu' but it's it couldn't be true. It can't be true. How about the other prophets? How about the other mothers who prayed the same prayer and who made the same dua for their offspring? And the scholars who took it, they said, illa here, except, we shouldn't take it literally, like illa qawma Yunus lamma amanu. There is a illa in Arabic, does not only mean except, it means especially. Illa in Arabic, in the language, sometimes it means except, sometimes it means especially. Like when we read in the Quran, وَمَا كَانَ وَإِن مِّن قَرْيَةٍ نَفَعَهَا إِيمَانُهَا لم تكن آمنت من قبل أو كسبت في إيمانها خيرا إلا قوم يونس لما آمنوا كشفنا عنهم عذاب الخزي في الحياة الدنيا. إلا قوم يونس doesn't mean except the people of Yunus here. It means and the best example and the best example here or like the people of Yunus. It's giving an example. So the meaning of the hadith here would be, if we accept it as a hadith and as a prophetic narration, that yes, in general, human beings when they are born, they will be stabbed, or they would be pinched, or they would be bothered by Satan. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from his evil. Except for those who are like the example, except the example of Mary and her son. Why? Because the grandmother, because Anna, Sayyidah Hannah alayhi salam, she made that dua. And then we could understand it as prophetic hadith because there is a teaching in it. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam wouldn't say things, there is no fa'idah in them. He wouldn't just say things like that, okay, just ghariba, ajiba, something bizarre, something just strange, just for being strange. Whenever you find something just like that, it could not be prophetic. Rasulullah ﷺ teaches us something, and here we understand if he's telling us that in general Satan touches the human being and causes him to suffer, but when the mother of this human being is aware and is connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, she would make a dua and she would ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to save that offspring from Satan. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will answer the dua. And the best example of that is what happened to Mary and her son. Ironically, this what they call hadith, this narration here. And let us understand something also about the tradition of the school of Tarim, which is, it's not a school of muhaddithin. It's not a school, they don't believe in criticizing the sacred text, any sacred text ever. They will take anything and they will make something beautiful out of it. They will take anything and they will make something beautiful out of it, and that's the manhaj of Imam Ghazali. It is an ijtihad. It was good for a certain time. I don't believe we could go with it 100% today. At least we have to give an interpretation. Maybe this narration did not make a problem, did not cause a problem for our ancestors. It was just, they took it as a funny story, as a good story, subhanAllah. Allahu Akbar. They were innocent enough to see just the story and to receive it with a smile. Yeah, Satan would stab all babies except for Maryam and her son. Look, because the grandmother made the dua, and they would stop there. Maybe that was a generation who could swallow things like this and live with it. But we live in a generation where we actually need to, it's a need for us to question a few things and at least have an answer. At least find an answer for them. Ironically, this hadith, when we were in one of these interfaith events, and the pastor, a previous Muslim, and the pastor was talking to us. He says, "I want to prove," and it's the fashion today. Muslims wanting to prove Christians wrong from their book. And Christians, why not? There are didads, there are Christian didads, okay? We don't only have one Muslim didad who just... Alhamdulillah, لا تسبوا الذين فيسبوا. You want to insult and criticize them from their book instead of following the word of God when He told you, لا تجادلوا أهل الكتاب إلا بالتي هي أحسن. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us exactly what to say to Christians and Jews. Don't go in these discussions about faith. Tell them, إلهنا وإلهكم واحد, and shut up. Tell them, our God and your God is the one God. God is one? Absolutely. They will tell you God is one. Khalas. Leave them alone. Don't go further. Prove yourself. If you want to prove something about your faith, استبقوا الخيرات أينما تكونوا يأتي بكم الله جميعا. If we go and see the verses of أهل that خلاص, and we have to stop there. الملاعنة was not even permitted to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He wanted to do it and they refused it, so it did not happen. That mubahala or that mula'a, khalas. Let alone for us, sinful people. Ala kulli hal. So some Christians, they started proving Trinity right and the divinity of Jesus right from the Quran and from the Sunnah. And one of the proof is this, that you see, all prophets are prophets because in the aqeedah of Christians, prophet is not, they don't have the same definition, they don't hold the same definition of prophet as us. For us, a prophet has to be ma'soom, has to be protected from sins. A prophet for us has to be, cannot lie. A prophet for us is a pure and protected man and perfect human being. That otherwise he could not be a prophet. For the Catholic tradition and the Jewish tradition before that, the prophet is just a spiritual thing, spiritual opening that could happen to a human being, but they remain sinful. And they may commit major sins, and you find such a prophet, he committed incest, and such a prophet he killed, and such a prophet he sent his general to war just to die just because he fell in love with his wife. And you find stories like that. And they will tell you they are prophets. They speak to God. If you follow the biblical description of prophets, you end up finding schizophrenic personalities. How could that be? He loves God and he sends his soldier to die. Or maybe he sent someone to kill him just because he fell in love with his wife. He wanted to get to marry her after the soldier dies. So for Catholics after that, they kept the same definition and the same understanding of prophets because it served their cause. What is their cause? That Jesus is not a prophet. Jesus is the Son of God. Jesus is God. Jesus is divine. Because had he been a prophet, he would sin. but he never sinned. And they come to the hadith because two ahadith Rasulullah ﷺ speaks. This hadith that when he was born, he was not touched by Satan. And the hadith of shafa'ah, the hadith of intercession, when people will run to Adam alayhi salam and he will tell them, no, I cannot speak to God because I committed that mistake. And then they will run to go to Noah, and then they will run to Noah and he will tell, I cannot speak to God today because I did that mistake that day. And then they will go to Ibrahim, and then they will, or go to someone else, and then they will run to Ibrahim. And all of them, they will mention something they deem, they consider sinful, and therefore holding them back from going and actually speaking to God in order and interceding for the creation. And then when they go to Jesus, he won't mention any sin about himself, but he will just point to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ironically enough, interesting enough, I find these texts, I don't even memorize them. But this brother from the interfaith, he memorizes them. And he says, you see, that's the proof. Even in your text, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying about Isa that he never sinned. And then, okay, and that's our proof that he is a son of God. Because other prophets are sinful. And because they are human beings. And the human being is sinful by nature. Then, if Jesus did not commit a sin, it means that he is God. That's exactly the summary of the thesis. That's why a text like this, it is better to not take it actually at all, altogether. But if we take it with the right understanding that the Arabic language permits it, allows it, that yes, the children of Adam will be touched by Satan in general, that Satan is there. Be careful, mothers, be careful, fathers, when your child is born, before even he gets born, protect him, pray for him. Do like Anne alayhi salam. Do like Anne, peace be upon her. Do like the grandmother of Jesus alayhi salam, peace be upon him. Do like her when she prayed for her offspring, and she did not only prayed for her offspring, she prayed for her baby and for whatever. When her baby was born, she said, وَإِنِّي أُعِيذُهَا بِكَ وَذُرِّيَّتَهَا مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ. I seek refuge in you, for her and for her offspring from Satan. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepted that prayer. Then we can understand it, and we can accept that text, and we can consider it, the matan of it, maqbool, acceptable as a prophetic teaching. Because here, what the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what the Prophet, what the Messenger of God is teaching us to do, is teaching us some practical thing. Is teaching us something that will allow the miracle of God to manifest in us or through us. He's teaching us how to protect our children from Satan. Bismillah. Now,
it is a sunnah which we are commanded to follow, to give the adhan in the right ear of a newborn baby and the iqamah in its left ear, to remind the child of its primordial nature, its fitrah, according to which God has made people, namely Tawheed. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, every newborn baby has, when born, his fitrah. It is his parents who make of him a Jew, a Christian, or a Zoroastrian. And God the Exalted said, so set your face to the religion as a man by nature upright, the nature, fitrah, given by God, in which he has created mankind. It is an absolutely duty for both parents to protect their child from everything that might distort his fitrah, to raise him well, protect him from evil nurses, and seriously strive to do these things. For as a hadith says, suckling alters nature. In his heart, they must plant a reverence for the symbols of religion and for the things God has made sacrosanct, the love of goodness, the practice of it, and of its practitioners. They must encourage and exhort him to do good, and discourage him from and make hateful to him evil, the practice of it, and those who practice it. They must also uproot love for the world and its pleasures from his heart, together with his inclination to enjoy it. And they must neither assist him in enjoying the dunya, nor render it easy for him, for that would be harming him, and would cause him to diverge from the straight way. They must tell him to pray when he reaches 7 years of age, and to fast as much as he can manage. From the age of 10 onwards, they are to discipline him physically, should he neglect these duties. They should prevent him from associating with bad company, and people whose dominant state is heedlessness and frivolousness, whether they be young or old. They must take even greater care with him as he develops the signs of discernment, and not allow him to say or do anything which is not pleasant and praiseworthy, so that he grows up in this manner, as these things become firmly established habit in him, which will make it easy for him to practice them when grown up. For goodness is a habit. Most of the duties connected to this must be performed by parents and other guardians. It is also important to keep the child away from children of people of no goodness or of bad families, for it has been said that the ruining of children stems mostly from other children. In the volume on disciplining the soul in the Ihya, the Imam, the proof of Islam, may God have mercy on him, has written comprehensively about how to discipline children and bring them up well. This period, from birth to puberty, is one in which God has lightened the load. For children are not obliged to pray, fast, or perform any other obligation of the Sharia, save what their guardians exhort them to do. Quote, "The pen is withheld from recording the deeds of 3 people: a child until he reaches puberty, a sleeper until he awakes, and a madman until he recovers." Hadith. Such is the graciousness, generosity, and gentleness of Allah. Any act of religious observance that a child does before puberty is recorded in his Muslim parents' scrolls. To the extent that they bring him up well, and as they should, it is to be hoped that, through God's grace, they will not be deprived of the reward for his acts of goodness and religious observance after he has reached puberty, but that they will each receive as much reward for them as he does. This is born out of the hadith where inviting to guidance and guiding to goodness are mentioned, for this is what they will have done.
Subhanallah. Naam. So, childhood. What is childhood? You remember when we spoke about the softwares or the apps which were downloaded in this human being. We spoke about 3 things, 3 levels. We spoke about something called the sound, the human nature, the fitrah. We spoke about the sound intellectual judgment, al-hukm al-aqli al-salim, or al-mantiq, al-hukm al-aqli, the sound intellectual judgment. And we spoke about the spiritual attachment to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or the thirst for God. These are the 3 things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put in the human being during the first life, before he comes into the second life. These 3 things, they do not get activated immediately after birth. The first thing that we need to work with is the sound of human nature, al-fitra salim. You cannot talk to children about aqeedah. For him, the sound intellectual judgment is not strong yet, is not there yet maybe, is not there yet in order for him to understand the requirements for God to be God. His brain is not ready to understand that God must be one, or God must be independent, or that everyone should be dependent of God. The whole concept of God is totally strange to the infant, to the child. Forcing the concept of God on him, especially with lots of targhib or tarhib, both, encouraging or discouraging, talking a lot about God for a child is not beneficial. It's not beneficial at all. He knows God, he has a relationship with God. For him, God is a friend. Talk to him that God is his friend, that God will never let him down, etc. That will prepare him. You can start working on superior qualities like relying on God, like loving God, etc. You can prepare him for things like that, and he can really open up to these ma'ani, to these deep meanings. But intellectually speaking, he's not there to judge the qualities and to understand the qualities of God, or the necessary qualities of God, the impossible qualities of God. So with a child, we work on the sound human nature, what we call al-fitra salima. The sound human nature that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put within him, and we work on it. We work on it to protect it, to awaken it, to help it to grow in a beautiful way. Fitra Salima, what is the sound of human nature? We said, when we spoke about the sound of human nature, who can remind us? What is the subject of studies of what is the subject that we can study with a sound of human nature? C'est quoi l'objet d'étude? What is the subject that we need a sound of human nature to study? The sound of human nature helps us to do what? To know God? No. So what? Right from wrong. The sound of human nature helps us to appreciate what should be appreciated and hate what should be hated, love what should be loved, and reject what should be rejected. The sound of human nature is there to tell us what is right, what is wrong, what is right to do, and what is wrong to do. That's what the sound of human nature helps us to do. So the sound of human nature with the child is not there yet, but it is there to be built first. So the first thing that we should care for and that we should address in the human being, in the child, is to build, protect, nourish, fortify, and allow the growth of the sound of human nature. Again, the sound of human nature is not interested in God as a subject. The sound of human nature does not serve us to know God. That would be the sound intellectual judgment, which is something else. The sound of human nature will help us to distinguish good from evil, to distinguish what is good for me, what is bad for me, etc. What is good and what is bad. So we have to help that sound of human nature, as Imam al-Haddad is telling us to, and Imam al-Ghazali before, to grow in a good way. Not through giving many lessons, that's haram, that's halal, that's haram, that's halal, that's haram, that's halal. No. They don't even need to understand haram or halal. At some point, the word haram, halal could just cause a trauma for them without for no reason. But that's good, that's not good. They are open to understand good from not good without necessarily knowing that it is connected, without necessarily making the connection, you know, that good comes from God. At a certain point, we'll tell them that إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَأْمُرُ إِلَّا بِخَيْرٍ, that all good comes from God and that God only teaches good. At a certain point, when they are maybe 7 or 8 or something like that. But in the beginning, or even maybe earlier, 5, 6, depending on the maturity of the children, but in the beginning, we help that fitrah to grow. And we do not tell them that's forbidden and that's allowable. Some of it at a certain age, the discipline, that's at the age of 7, we start disciplining and saying that's forbidden, that's not forbidden. Or sometimes when you say 7, maybe a bit earlier than that, also for some children. But we have to build, and we have to nourish, and we have to help that sound of human nature grow, because it is there, but it is not grown yet. It is the first flower that would blossom in the human being, but it's not strong yet. It's not open yet. It is blossoming. We have to help. We have to allow it to blossom, and we have to help it grow. So, through preventing it from corruption, that's what Imam al-Haddad is telling us. From preventing it from corruption. If you expose your child, for example, to images of Spider-Man all the day, if you give him games of dragons, all what he's playing with are dragons, or you give him a video game and he is consumed with it or in it day and night. Or you come to a little girl, the age of 3-year-old, and you dress her with a décolleté, the thing that falls like this, tank top. A 3-year-old girl, and you come to a 4-year-old girl, and to make her look beautiful for a wedding, you paint her face. What are you doing? What are you doing? You are corrupting her sound nature. And after that you come to her and tell her, oh, that's haram, by the way, when she's grown up. Why did you do it for her when she was little? Why did you force her into that world when she was little? Are these children clothing? Yeah. Is that considered to be children clothing? No. We are not saying dress your girl with a hijab or with a scarf. No. Dress her with children clothing. It could be colorful, it could be beautiful, it could be, but not adult clothing, small adult clothing, and putting into children like that. Tight pants. See? Since when these were children clothing? Since when these clothes, that kind of clothes? Since when they were children clothes? Or you bring a small boy, a little boy, and you dress him in jeans, skinny jeans, and tight shirt. and you put his spike his hair, or you put his thing, that cap, like yeah, in different direction or something like that, or you give him white pants like the rap musicians or whatever, and what these are slogans. Adults, they put these clothes to send a message. And you believe it is a corrupted way of clothing. We do believe. We are coming from a frame. We have our basis, we have our ground. We believe that to wear tight pants, to have spike hair, it's to shave one part and say and leave the other part, to put makeup, excessive makeup, to change the color of the hair and the color of the skin, and is an obsession with the body, which is not natural, which is not fitrah. To show the skin. That's why my grandfather, Abdullah Ali, he was aware of that. Since they started giving us shorts in summer, he said, he doesn't need shorts in summer. Give him pants. No, it's summer, it's hot. He said, they will keep arguing with him. No, wait, just give him pants. Give him long shorts. Oh, he's still a kid. And if this boy gets used to show his legs, to expose that part of his body that he should be trained to hide at a certain point, even from his father. The mother, no problem. And fitrah, the sound fitrah would tell us to hide, girl or boy, to hide from the father. You could expose part of our body to the mother to a certain age, but at some point we start, so the haya, the shyness, is not related to the sound intellectual judgment, but it is related to the sound human nature, al-haya, shyness. They call it modesty. It's not modesty, it's to keep one's private room private, and do not want to show his mess to others, do not want to leave the door of the washroom open when he's doing his things, etc. Do not talk when he's in the washroom. All of these small things. If you want to help the child grow with the sound of human nature, without dictating many things, but helping him through a frame, through an environment, helping him with an environment that won't corrupt that sound of human nature. That's what is very important in the age of childhood. And that is the most important thing. And we had many dawras regarding parenting seminars. You can go and just refer to these seminars to know more and to learn more about this. But in what we are teaching here, we are not really teaching how to raise your kid. I know many people are very sensitive to that, more than anything else. But we are not teaching that in particular, but we are saying that the first thing that can be corrupted in the human being and can be played with, and also the first thing that needs to be helped, because it is the first thing that is developed, that starts developing in the human being after birth, is what? is the sound of human nature, is al-fitra. Is the sound of human nature. That is the first thing that we should address and take care of, and fear for and protect. That is the first aspect of the human being that starts really developing. And that's why we see Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam teaching child before teaching him how to pray. He was a child, 5-year-old boy, before even telling him, before even requesting his parents to teach him how to pray. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam wouldn't really teach people how to pray until the age of 7. Let them. Don't bring them to the mosque. Oh, I want to bring my child to the mosque so he can learn how to pray. No. Teach him how to play first. How to play right. How to share his game with others. That would be more important than bringing him to the mosque. Maybe he will be, what is he going to get from long Taraweeh prayer in Ramadan? What is he going to get from the mosque environment? Bring him to play with the Imam, yes. In a time, and the Imam of the mosque, if he is a true community leader, he should provide some time to play with kids. But it's a time. But don't bring him to the adults' prayer. It's the adults' space. And he is completely stranger to it. And he doesn't get it. We see many kids, you bring them as soon as you... And if you want to bring them to the adult space, you have to, if you needed to, then have them with you. If they are holdable, if they are at the age of 1 or 2, we should avoid it. We should really avoid it. Because some people, they think, oh, they will get the barakah of the ambience of the environment of the mosque. There are angels, etc. For the kid, they do not see that. What he will see all of a sudden hundreds of people or tens of people or crowd of people standing up. And one kid in the front starts yelling at them, if it is Jumu'ah. Or one kid in the front starts crying. So you will want to cry with that kid who's crying out of sympathy. That's Quran recitation for a kid. So don't find it strange every time the kids are quiet. As soon as Allahu Akbar, and he looks at the eyes of his mom, and she's not looking at him or looking at the ground. What a mawqaf azim, mawqaf mahul. It's a scary moment. And it is meant to be like that. He cannot digest that moment. He cannot manage to live that moment. He will get intense feelings and he won't be able to really deal with that. He will cry. She will cry. Naturally speaking, Adi. So what's happening to me? And you will feel embarrassed. And then he will get your embarrassment and he will feel very bad. And other things, they have another level of communication with adults. So, but we teach them how to play before teaching them how to pray. Because playing is not a jumping around. Playing has rules. But you have to teach them how to play right. Because if they play right, they will pray right. Teach them how to play with respect, how to play with discipline, how to share the game, how to not lie when they play, etc., etc. How to clean up the mess after playing. How to not bring 1,000 games. And now our babies, they have everyone, a child, a sack filled with, And then when they are adults and he has a wife and he jumps, he is looking for a girlfriend. What's going on with my boy? He was such a beautiful child. Why? When he was such a beautiful child, you did not allow him to be loyal to one game. He's not meant to have more than one poupée, doll. And let her be loyal to that doll. And let him be loyal to that doll. Yeah, even boys, they can play with dolls. They can play with dolls. It's very healthy to boys, for boys to play with dolls. But one, or at some point when they are older, they can start making theater, for example, or something like that. And okay, this doll is doing that. But for the little girl who is playing, why many? So overwhelming, so disorganized. And then he's taking his doll and she's breaking her doll like that. Teach them how to play. How to play right. لاعبوهم لسبع, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says. Play with them for 7 years. You have to play with them, you have to be with them. You have to invest in that. You have to give your heart to it. And then you will see. They will be so happy with you. Don't throw them, don't marginalize them. Don't consider that to be. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam coming to the boy, Ya Aba Umayr, ma fa'al al-Nughayr, Ya Aba Umayr, ma fa'al al-Nughayr. He went with him into his story and he wasn't like laughing at him, Ya Aba Umayr, ma fa'al al-Nughayr. He would go to him, Ya Aba Umayr, what happened to the bird? And then Abu Umayr would start crying, he died. Sallallahu was invested with him. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sorry that your bird died. And then he will keep reminding him of him again. Abu Umayr, what happened to the bird? Where is your bird, Abu Umayr? Why? Rasulullah wanting to wanting to build loyalty in that kid. It's not because your bird died, khalas, you forget him and you go and you move to another bird. You go, what happened to that bird, Ya Abu Umayr? Oh, the bird left, died. Subhanallah. It's good. It's good to see the kid sad because they lost a cat or because they lost a bird. Or invest in these moments. Invest in these moments. To build something in them. Like loyalty, like love, like, etc. We say fidelity or loyalty? Loyalty. Many things we can teach kids when they are playing. And also when they are playing, there is some discipline. So this kid was eating with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they placed him eating with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam at the age of 5 or 4. And he started, oh, that's a big thing, that's beautiful, that's watermelon, etc. No. Eat from what is in front of you. And say Bismillah. And eat with the right hand. And wash your hands before eating. And wash your hands after eating. And don't go to the qas'a. If you need something and it is far away from you, ask politely, gently, and we'll bring it to you. These things you teach to kids before telling them anything about God. Before telling them anything that, oh, we are Muslims and they are Christians, so we cannot celebrate Christmas because they are. What does that have to do with the sound of human nature? If anything, the sound of human nature will tell you, oh, they are partying, go and party with them. Go and tell them, go and tell them happy anniversary or whatever. They are partying, it's good. If there is something, how could you expect a child the age of 4? You put him in a kindergarten, tell him, okay, listen, we only eat halal meat, boy. What the hell? Halal meat? Halal meat? For him it sounds like hell. What's halal? Halal? What halal meat? What? And then kids are bringing their modern, what's the Bambaloni and whatever. What's it? and pepperoni and whatever, and all kinds of bread and corrupted things. And then they make them, and they smell something, and then, subhanAllah, the kid is looking like that. Oh boy, we only eat halal meat. Okay, what's the solution? Let us have halal sausages. Let us have halal hot dogs. Let us have halal pepperoni, halal. Let us have halal ham, bacon. Doesn't make any sense. He cannot get that information. He cannot get it. If you want to base restriction, tell him, boy, you have your food, you eat it. But still, sharing food with others is healthy. So take him to vegetarian kindergarten, or don't take him. Or tell the teacher. Or tell your boy that you are allergic to something. But tell him that information, he won't get it. Why God is forbidding us all these nice things? All delicious food are haram. Beautiful parties are haram. He cannot get it. So we have to really think about it. We have to really think about it. And I'm not telling you that we have the solution, but we have to think about it. We have to think deep about it. So relating these things to God won't help. Actually, it will put him in an adversary position with God. He doesn't need that. Bringing God because you are not strong enough. He needs a strong father. You can discipline him. If you are strong enough, you can discipline your kid. You can, yes. He will take it from you, but not from God. Don't cover up for your weakness with bringing God into the game. Oh, God will be unhappy with you. Why? You cannot. I will be unhappy with you if you do so and so. He will get it from you. He will get it. He's more ready to get something, because that's a human relationship, and that requires what? That requires a sound human nature. It does not require a sound intellectual judgment that he does not have yet. Bringing God into the game, if you want to bring God into the game, don't bring God with the sound intellectual judgment. Don't bring God with matters of aqidah or sharia. Bring God with, God is watching you. God is helping you. God is assisting you. God is there for you. Do not disappoint God, because He will be able to relate to God the way He relates to the Father. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to teach your children how to make dhikr, He told them, اذكروا الله كذكركم آباءكم أو أشد ذكرا. Remember God the way you cry for God the way you used to cry for your parents. Because it's and if you want your child to build a relationship of reliance and confidence and trust in God, do not disappoint him, because he sees God in you. If you leave him and abandon him and he's crying, and you don't run towards him, he will grow up thinking, I can cry, I can make dua, and God won't run towards me to help me. But if every time he cries you run towards him, at a certain age, don't say, oh, they are manipulating. No, manipulation comes after. It comes after, it comes later, etc. So in that age, he's telling you, it is an absolute duty for both parents to protect their child from everything that might distort this fitrah. This growing fitrah. It is growing, it is still green, it is still like a new plant. You are doing gardening today, like a new, fresh, fragile, vulnerable. It's beautiful though. It's so beautiful. It's so green. It smells so nice. But it's not mature yet. It might be broken easily. It might be distorted easily. So the role in the beginning, in that childhood age, is to protect the fitrah of the children. Again, we are not building it. And also we should not escape it to be complete. It is there, the potential of the fitrah is there, it is growing nice. The plant of the fitrah is there, you have to help it to grow nicely. You have to help it to grow nicely and become stronger and stronger nicely. Through protecting it from everything that could distort it. And protecting him from bad. Sending your kid to the kindergarten. Oh, it's in a Muslim kindergarten. Okay. But these Muslims, because they are good Muslims, and they brought this Muslim girl, and when she wants to play with girls, she would put makeup for them. At the age of 4. She's painting their faces. Teaching. The teacher. Yeah. This teacher in an Islamic kindergarten. Daycare. Do they care really? In this daycare? Do they know really? Why? Why do you send the child to the daycare to begin with? Do you need to work, both of you? And then count. Do you have an accountant? And then you will see that half of your salary, if not more actually, and then with the taxes, etc., you will find that you are working for nothing, for no reason. You are working to pay the daycare. Why? Couldn't we have one of the parents stay home to care? Do we really need big house with a pool in it and with a... Do you really need that? We need a garden in the house, yes. And if we don't have a garden, we can go and have a community garden. Is it really unhealthy for kids to be piled up in one room? The science is telling you the opposite. It's much healthier for kids to share one room. To have them like 5 of them in one room. Much healthier for kids to share one room. They will learn how to respect each other. They will learn than having my bed, my room. They call it my space. It might be corrupting their fitrah if you introduce this concept of propriété, this concept of ownership and not property, ownership, private space, etc. At the age of 4 or 5, it's too early. Even at the age of 6, it's too early. It's too early. You deprive them from sharing and caring for each other. And why not making the bed of my sister? And helping my sister making her bed, and etc. So we need really to rethink our priorities. Is my priority to go and buy a big house, and 2 people are working, and then dumping our kids at 6 a.m. I wake them up, and I'm stressed out, and I'm tired. And they see me like that and forcing them to get out. They cannot even get their deep hug when they wake up. They cannot even, oh, it's sunny today. Look at the snow. Look at the flake. They cannot even look at anything. Kidnap them from the bed, dump them into the shower, rescue them from the water, put them in their clothing, and they are resisting to this, and then force them into, subhanallah, ajib. Put them into the car, and put the belt, and throw them into the daycare at 6 because you have to run back home, and because you have to run to work after that, because you start to work at 8 or at 7:30. Well, even if it is a bit later, still. And 6 days a week, that's how, or 5 days a week, that's how their day start. And Saturday, they have to go through another trauma. They have to go and visit the grandparents today, also. Otherwise, they will be upset with us. It's not because we love them. It's not because we want to see them. All of that corrupts the fitrah. All of that corrupts the fitrah. We should think about it. If we want really to protect the sound, the human nature in the child, what is the priority? Is my priority to have a big house and 2 cars and 2 salaries? Because you need 2 salaries in order to do that. Or 1 modest salary will be enough, and one of the parents will actually be the daycare. And then you won't need to tell them, oh, you need to eat halal meat, because they're eating at home. And whenever you have a party with non-Muslim friends, we eat vegetarian or potluck. You can organize it. Adults, they understand. You have different religion, you have different requirements, but putting it in the mind of the child at the age of 3, oh, so and so is Muslim. Is he Muslim? So I was with this boy, and then because they had to protect him from the non-halal meat, because it was the most important thing in their mind. And then they told them, oh, because they're not Muslim, they eat all kinds of meat, but because we are Muslim, we have to eat only halal meat. And then, Muslim, it's a funny question. So then he said, Ma, is Shaykh Hamdi Muslim? When he met me, after he got introduced to this concept, to this strange concept, funny thing. Now when he's asking, he's going in the street, is he Muslim? Are they Muslim? Is she? What? Why? What does that have to do with developing, with helping a child to develop a sound human nature? Why did you force him into this tiny path? He's not ready for it. It's very narrow. He's not equipped. He doesn't get it right. He won't get it. So we need to understand, yes, we need to protect the fitrah of our children without traumatizing their brains with concepts that they are not ready to get. They are not ready. They are not even ready to deal with the concept of God to begin with. They are not ready to deal with the concept of God as the universal creator, the one who, they are not ready. They are ready to deal maybe with the concept of angels, yes. As your brothers and sisters, you do not see, they care for them, and okay, he will see nice dreams. They will be ready, can introduce the concept, not the concept of God, but the closeness of God, yes. The trust of God, in God, yes. But not the concept of God. Not the concept of God and all the intellectual requirements. And now we have books of aqidah for kids. And with all my respect, the owl, or what's the name of the book? Huh? To teach the sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to kids under 7. With all my respect, I think it's waste of time, waste of energy, and another way of children abuse. They won't get it, and they don't need it. They don't need to be introduced to the concept of God in that way. They are not ready for it. Aqidah for kids, they are not ready for it. All what they need to know that God loves you, cares for you, and don't disappoint Him. And they will make a parallel with you. And they need you to represent God because you are God on earth. If you want them to believe that God is caring, be caring. If you want them to believe that God is also caring with giving love and giving tenderness, but also caring. Get disappointed if you do something wrong. You don't want to lose that relationship that you have with Him. He's the friend that you do not see. Huh? Yes, they can get introduced to God as the friend that they cannot see. And they will be very happy and they will see Him in their dreams. And when God manifests Himself into the dream of a child, He will never tell him, I'm the one, فَاعْبُدْنِي وَاصْطَبِرْ لِعِبَادَتِي, or I'm the one, don't associate any God to me, or something like that. No. If a child sees God, he will see God smiling to him, playing with him, giving him a ball. Maybe some of you remember these dreams because it is possible to see God in your dream. Doesn't mean that God has a shape. But what is a dream? Is a manifestation. It is very possible. I saw God when I was a child. I still remember that dream very well. Yeah. He gave me a hug and I smelled his beard. I still remember the smell. And he taught me al-Fatiha. Because they started to teach me al-Fatiha, all of them, they couldn't. They couldn't. So he taught me and they woke up. I memorized al-Fatiha. I couldn't believe it. And they started walking and, Alhamdulillah, I memorized it. Alhamdulillah. Another child, he remembers his dream of God. He said, I remember God. He put me on the bike and he helped me. He taught me how to ride the bike. Yes, it's possible for children to see God. And that's how they should see God. The concept of paradise, the concept of fire, the concept of obligation, the concept of duty, and even the concept of morality as morality with that meaning of connected to God, the concept of aqidah, they are not equipped yet to deal with that. That software is not developed yet. It still needs time. They won't be able to read that information. It will hurt their brains. So the sound of human nature is something else. The subject of the sound of human nature is not God. We said the subject of l'objet d'étude, how to say that in English? Object of study? Or the... When you say sociology, what is the object of study or subject?
Subject of study.
No. So, for example, of psychology is the human. The study of, okay. طيب. I'm sure there is another word. There is another word for it. So على كل حال l'objet d'étude. So the focus, what this tool called sound of human nature is created for, or could study, is not God. It cannot approach God with the sound of human nature. You can approach what is good, what is bad, what is beautiful, what is ugly, what is correct, what is not correct. Actually better, what is pleasing, what is not pleasing. هكذا. Every newborn, says Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, baby has when born his fitrah. It is his parents who make of him a Jew, a Christian, or a Zoroastrian. So this hadith here is talking about, because when we say fitrah in Arabic, we mean two things. We mean the sound of human nature sometimes. So when in the hadith and in the Quran, when you read the word fitrah, it could be referring to the sound of human nature, as it could be referring to the sound intellectual judgment. So we're talking about two fitrahs. There is the fitrah of the mind, and there is the fitrah of the taste, the fitrah of the nature, we can say the natural discernment. We have two levels. We have two levels of fitrah. One of them starts first. One of them should be dealt with first. One of them should be addressed first, and spoken to first, and developed first. Yes.
I'm just going to ask, how do you know what is the fitrah that's emerging from a child? For example, in our settings when children are brought here, sometimes you find a child who doesn't want to say salam alaikum. They're shy, they want to hide behind their mom. And in our culture, whatever the amalgam of culture that we're bringing here, the kid usually gets in trouble for that. No, say hi, say salam to auntie, look at her, talk to her. How do you know if that actually is an example of where I need to respect the fitrah of this child and let these things come in due time?
No, saying salam to people and smiling to people and not being mean to people and greeting is part of the sound of human nature. Now, if the child is not saying salam, it doesn't mean that he's not there yet. No. It means that he's not happy with something. It means that he's not happy with something. Don't force it on him in that moment, but go and see why he is like that, why he is acting like that. And so there is a behavior that the adult had with him that made him, maybe you took him away in a moment. He was very absorbed in a very beautiful game or something. Maybe you did not prepare him for the moment. Maybe many other things. Yes, feeling shy is part of the fitrah, but not feeling shy that he doesn't want to say salam or turning his face or turning. No. That's actually something that we should help our kids to develop in the beginning, how to behave with adults, how to say salam, how to go and shake hands right, how to. We can prepare them for that. Wallahu wa rasuluhu a'lam.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So what's
Yeah.
So we keep speaking about parents forcing their kids to do certain things, but the real question would be, what drives those parents to do that in the first place? Because it's not the child's fault. The child is in the middle of this.
What drives those parents to do that is emotion. Parents, they want to protect their kids, and they want to give the most that they could give to their kids. And they get that fear, oh, my kids will lose their religion, especially in a space like this, especially in countries like this, when the definition of these places, the definition of this country, by definition we call them non-Muslim countries, etc. So in the mind of the parents, these places are hostile environments for our religion. So they really want, they get paranoid, and they get so stressed out. They start acting under stress. So they want really to do the maximum and to force things. So yes, what is bringing parents into that mood is a lack of knowledge, fear and lack of knowledge. Fear and lack of knowledge, and also love. They care for their kids. They really want. They really want their kids to grow up as Muslims, for example, and learn everything about Islam and etc. So, but they ignore the priorities. They ruin their sound of human nature, and they force on them something that they won't be able to understand until the age of 10 or 11 or 12. They are not ready to deal with yet. They force this information on them. And it's just, we teach kids how to be nice. We teach kids how to help. We teach kids how to play right, as we said, before teaching them how to pray. Before teaching them how to pray. And even if you want to teach them how to pray, prayer should be a play for them, should be a nice game for them. Even if you want to teach them how to pray, prayer should be a nice game for them, a joyful game for them. When I say joyful game, doesn't mean that joyful game, you can, if you are strong enough, you can say, pray to God and you will get it. You lost your cat? Okay, let us make prayer now, and the cat will come back. And it will happen. And it will help that kid. It will help that kid. You want a bike? Pray for God. It will come. You want this? Pray. Yeah. And you can use it in that way. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq. Ameen ya arhamar rahimin. Ya Rabbil Alameen. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us assistance in order to protect the sound of human nature within us, and to bring it back to life after death within us, and to revive it within us. The good thing that the sound of human nature is always there and will never really die. It is always there. It just needs a rain. It just needs a rain. It needs a rain and freeing and taking and weeding. It needs watering and weeding. But it is there. It is mazru'a there. But if we let weeds grow, the weeds will overwhelm. Unsound nature, wild nature, by definition grows faster than proper nature. Like in the garden. If you do gardening, you will see that wild nature, weeds, undesirable, non-desirable, they actually will spread faster, will grow faster, and they have an overwhelming nature, to the point that they could actually kill that or reduce the size and strain and cause to suffocate that plant that you want to see the fruits of one day. So that's all what we need. That's all what we need to do, is really to water and weed our sound of human nature. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq. Ameen ya arhamar rahimin rabbil alameen. Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barik ala sayyidina habibina shafi'ana Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabihi tayyibin tahirin. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.
شفيعنا أحمد الله صلي ربي على النبي مولانا